welcome to another episode of Writing While Black. Today, our topic is Black Writers Groups. So specifically, our Black Writers Group. We're all members of a Black Writers Group here where we live. So on the panel today, or with us today, it's me and of course Ayoka. And then we also have, if you could introduce yourselves, starting with the with the elder.
I'm Ivy Thomas Riley. Thank you for that introduction. Now the only male this year.
And I'm Yapa. I'm glad to be here, and I always appreciate the opportunity to be with the group.
All right. That was what?
That was so suave.
Oh. So I guess I wanted to start focusing specifically on how we met and how we all connected, or how we all connected in the context of writing, because I guess we have various connections that are outside of the Black Writers Group. When we moved here, Iyapo finished Melanin about 3 months after we moved, and just me being able to witness that was rather amazing and very inspirational. And I had never seen a book getting written before. When we moved here, I think he had like 2 or 3 chapters. And so just seeing him commit to, oh, I'm going to write 3 pages a day. And then 3 pages turned into 5 pages. And then some days it would be, I wrote 20 pages today. And just day by day by day, the book came together. And so kind of seeing a writer at work and seeing a novel come together was really inspirational to me. And I felt like I had been in a writer's group before. I think I had just been in one writer's group before, but I felt like I really wanted to connect with other writers and for us to be able to support and encourage each other in the way that I had felt supported and encouraged through the process with Iyapo. So that's sort of how the Black Writers Group came to be here. And it also felt important to me as Black writers to connect with other Black writers. At the time, shortly after we started this group, there was another group that I was a part of that was not a Black Writers Group. And it involved a few other women who were white women. And at some point I decided that I wanted to remove myself from that because I wanted my energy to be focused specifically on either building Black us or me chilling. So I just kind of felt like nothing in particular happened. There were a couple things that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but that's when you're dealing with people. But just philosophically, I couldn't justify participating in that group. So anyway, that's how I came to be here with the Black Writers Group. So
I think when I came to the group, you all had already been together for maybe about 6 months, I want to say. Maybe.
What month was it when you moved? We started in December.
Oh, well, it hadn't been that long. Because I think I started in February or March.
Yeah, I was thinking it was earlier than 6 months.
Okay. And I'm an artist and I need creative energy. That's when I feel myself, most whole. And so I don't know, I must have seen something posted that there was a Black Writers Group, and I was so excited. And I remember David wasn't here yet, and I remember calling him, baby, there's a Black Writers Group, and I'm going next week. And he was like, okay. But I just, you're in a new place, you want to find your people. And so that's what it was for me. I didn't know what to expect, especially because I hadn't been writing in a long time. I had just been in a space where I was just not in a good space and I couldn't write. And anytime I can't write, that's a problem. So I said, well, I can go listen. And that's what I did. At first I just listened and, just chimed in here and there, but I didn't have any work to share, but that changed.
Had you ever been in a writers group before?
I'd never been in any type of writers group before. I'm a very solitary person, so this was just a different experience for me all the way around. But I wanted to see what was going on.
When I was in a writers group before, it was me and Naja. We had invited other people to join, but it just ended up being us. And every week we would get together and it was more like journaling and just kind of sharing what we wrote. But I knew I wanted to write, but I hadn't figured out what to do with it. So the writers group was kind of like a step in that direction, or trying to put some structure underneath the vision. So whoever else wants to share about how they came and why they've continued to come, because we're kind of the core of the Black Writers Group. Other people kind of come and go, but
Right.
This group has been pretty solid since basically the beginning.
Well, for me, I had been writing probably since the 70s, probably all my life in one form or another, but never very seriously, never very disciplined. In the 90s, we had a open mic poetry session, which met every week. And I was one of the people that founded that. So every week I had to be there, and we all had to have poetry in case no one showed up to keep it going for 2 hours. So I think I was writing a lot then, even, sitting there at pitch black, so that at any moment, if we needed to, we could get up and, recite something. So when I came here, I don't know if I've ever really thought of myself as a writer, and I certainly never thought of myself as writing short stories, although I had written one in junior high school, but I never thought of myself as a novelist or a serious writer. So the writers group, I was basically giving support for Angela and Iyapo, and editing his books has been kind of inspirational to me in terms of just seeing the whole being part of that process of getting it to completion. So now I'm working on my memoirs. I'm also working on a novel, which I never would have thought I would have tried to do. And I still continue to do poetry, and journaling is kind of been therapeutic for me.
Or for me, Angela stole my thunder a little bit, because that's exactly what I was about to say. Was, if you're watching this, you're pretty much seeing the core group, because we've seen them come, we've seen them go. There's actually a lot of people in the group online, but this is the core. And even if one of us isn't there, like if I'm not there, it's still gonna be Angela, Ivy, and Ayoka. If Mom's not there, it's me, Angela, Ayoka. It's always going to be us, but this is pretty much the core, and we're very consistent. When I got with the group, I had already written one book, but I was realizing that writing is such a solitary act, and you need for me, I needed to be part of a group. I had been in writers groups before, but nothing this solid. And I just the whole idea of bouncing ideas off of each other and getting information, getting critiques, seeing other people's work and seeing other people develop as writers, it just helps me along. So Angela, I love the writers group. I love being part of it, and I feel honored to be part of it, and with such talented people. So
I did think of something, Angela. I was part of an artist collective in DC. Most of them were visual artists. So I was the only writer in the group. but it still gave me what I needed, being around that creative energy and, being just in fellowship with, other people who used whichever media to express their ideas and express themselves. So I think as artists, as Black artists, it's really valuable to have a group, whether you call it a collective, whether it's, whatever media you're in, because we've talked about this before, but I think a lot of Black artists really believe that they have this innate responsibility in terms of, in their expression, they are speaking, they are world building, they are, making a statement. And a lot of times, advocacy, whether you call yourself an advocate or not, but advocacy is hard work and it can be draining. So especially if you're an artist who is, that's your stream of income, and you're selling your work. And we know that as Black artists, a lot of times that can be difficult. It's, finding your market or people wanting your work. So I think it's really important to have a supportive group around you, to give you that little boost or that little cheer when you're feeling, how sometimes we feel like, the world is against us, kind of thing. Or I can't, my work isn't finding my audience or finding my people, and I don't know what to do. So I think it's important to have that, whatever label you want to put on it, that village as an artist.
And I want to, there are two things I want to kind of mention to piggyback directly on what you're saying in terms of that community and as Black artists. One of the things that I guess is kind of built is part of me is, like, my mother was a member of the National Conference of Black Lawyers, is a member of the National Conference of Black Lawyers in the US. I don't know if it's international, but this idea of that organization being the legal arm of the Black Revolution, the idea of the Black arts movement back in the day being the artistic arm of the Black Revolution, that we're all workers. For me, it's really compelling and important that we're all workers on behalf of our people. And I remember learning when I was at the Ella Baker Child Policy Institute years ago, they're like, anybody is a child advocate. It's not what you do, it's how you think about it. So you can be a dentist and be an advocate for children. You can, whoever you are, either, to me, as Black people, either we're for us or we're not for us. Like somebody said in the farmers group yesterday for Up, either your food is your medicine or it's your poison. Like, it's not really, there's no gray area. And that's kind of how I feel like, as as a Black artist, I feel like I want to stay shored up and focus on, being of service to my people, because I feel like there's so much pressure and so much temptation to try to shift and change, to fit in, or try to shift and change to maybe figure out how to get on the money train, or try to shift and change, for whatever reason. So I wanted to say that. And then also for me, I the group sometimes, not recently, but there were times when we would have like 20 people here or 20 people at the group. That was the highest number I think I ever counted. But sometimes it would be 8 or 9, or, and sometimes it would go down to just 2. But ever since we started meeting in December, I guess 2.5 years ago, whatever, we basically had a meeting every week that we planned to have a meeting with breaks for traveling. And that's really awesome to me. And I was reading someplace that 5 is actually 5 or 6 is a solid number for a writers group. Really, if you have too many, it gets a little unwieldy and a little overwhelming. So if we're like writing together and then everybody, like, it's like when we're on schedule and it's a few of us, it seems like it works really, really well in my observation, but it still makes me a little anxious. If the next question or the next thing I wanted to kind of move us to or get us talking about is how have we shifted as artists and writers from being a part of, and as Black people, from being a part of our group, our community. Yeah, I know some people would mention, you said, I never really thought of myself as a writer, or, I never thought about writing a novel. When we met you, Ayoka, you did have the 4 poetry books that were completed. So you were,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I've always been a writer. I've always written since I was a teenager, and my past career was writing based. I was in public relations. I wrote all the time, but I mean, when I came here, I hadn't written for myself in probably about 6 months, which was a big deal, and not in a good way. And so obviously what changed for me is I got out here. I'm in a space where I'm peaceful, because I was just in a really bad headspace. And so I needed peace. I needed nature. And then I knew that creative energy would buoy me. And then, for me, what changed, I mean, I've always been a poet. I hadn't written a short story since high school. And when I read Iyapo's Moanesis, I was like, I'm gonna write a short story. I can write a short story. And so I wrote a few of them. They were nonfiction, creative nonfiction. And I thought that was my lane, because that's what I always wrote. I was the one nonfiction author in the group. And then I said, I'm gonna challenge myself again and write some fiction. Everybody else is doing it. I'm gonna see if I can do it. And so it was just, it was good to challenge myself. And so that's what's changed for me, just dipping my toe in other genres, and just the act of writing itself, because it had eluded me for so long.
I don't think it's any secret among the group that I'm a massive fan of Ayoka's writing style. And I don't mind saying it tickles me. It makes me smile every time I see Love at Second Sight, especially when she has them stacked up and then showing the picture. I remember when she first came to the group and she wasn't writing fiction. And I'm like, now she has this fiction book that's out there and people are commenting on it. People are doing videos. And that's it. To me, that's the power of the writers group, because it's like training when you already have an innate talent and then you train it and you start to hone it, and it starts getting better and better. For me, I had already written the one book, but I like the accountability that the group has, that makes me have when it comes to writing. And like I said, I just enjoy being part of it, and everybody just tickles me as I'm just looking at everybody blossom and their talents coming out, and looking at my own work starting to flow even more. I don't even know if I could have written Rasul, Ohio had I not been with this group. So, because it's a different kind of book for me.
I think the biggest change for me has been writing fiction. Poetry for me has been very freeing, and journaling, of course, is very freeing. But a lot of times I would use poetry almost as a weapon. It was my way of telling somebody off, of getting my point of view out, and could nobody say nothing back, kind of sort of thing. But the the freedom in fiction and just creating a whole world and a whole character and a whole plot is very freeing in a way I hadn't really experienced before. So I know I probably would not have thought of trying it if not for this group.
Yeah, I think the world building aspect of fiction is very freeing as a Black person. And I think we talked about it last week. Like it was difficult to get my mind around it at first, but it's like in my world, I'm God. I can set skit up the way I want it to be set up. Anything can happen in my world, and that's just really amazing to me. And this idea of art as a weapon is it's kind of interesting because I feel like, all the tools we can get against the system of white supremacy is, we need them, so that's really compelling. And also there's something about artist collectives that's always been interesting to me. Like visual artists, sometimes I don't know the details, but like when they work together, in community, their work reflects that they work together, and there's a certain spirit in that. Or in Detroit, there's the Pewabic pottery, and there was a collective of people doing it. Or in where Prince was in Minneapolis, I think it is, there was the Minneapolis sound or the Motown sound when artists work together. And so I'm very curious about, like, we all work together, is there a way to tell in our work that we work together? That's kind of fascinating to me, like what it means to be in that type of community. And then the other thing I want to talk about is the writer of the week. We have a writer of the week every week, and it's like a
Homework assignment.
It's like a homework assignment, but it's like misery, but it's also like, it's been very productive for me. Like, I hate being the writer of the week, but I love that I've done it so many times. I feel like it forces me to write. And I don't think that I would spontaneously be doing it anyway. And it's not like if I don't write something, somebody's gonna beat me. It's not that kind of force. It's like an internal force that I really, really appreciate. And I also like we have someone who's coming on the podcast, and I'm reading their nonfiction, and I'm really excited to read their fiction. So this idea of people writing fiction and nonfiction, it's like, I just feel like it's so fascinating to me too, like how people express themselves in various forms. Like when we had that Kaumba celebration, and some people had poetry, and then Iyapo was like playing the guitar, he was like playing the harmonic. It was like all of the different ways that energy can flow is really beautiful to me. So
I think the anthology that we do, if we do more of them, we will certainly be able to look back over time and see and maybe get a feel for how we work as a collective. This is the first one coming out, and we would encourage anyone to submit anything they would like to. In addition to what's on the flyer, I'm encouraging cartoonists, I'm encouraging photographers, I'm encouraging whoever wants to express their identity in whichever way they want to also submit.
I want to say real quick, Angela and Ivy have read Rasulul, Ohio, and I just wanted to interject that I really, truly don't know that I could have written that except for the writers group, because like I said, that's outside my wheelhouse, and just the style of the writers that I've been interacting with was a great help to me. So I just wanted to say that in answer to what you were saying, or what you asked, Angela.
So thanks for joining us on another episode of Writing While Black. See you next time.